Welcome to Leadership Legacy Radio, where we inspire you to live your dreams, encourage you to take massive action, and be your authentic and genuine self. We focus on 3 pillars. That's empowering youth, equipping leaders, and enriching marriages so that you can go out and dominate your space.
If you're ready to dominate, you're listening to the right show. This is the Leadership Legacy Radio. Now let's go. Let's go.
All right, y'all, let's have some fun.
Super fun tonight.
Have a few comedical gestures for y'all. Comical gestures. Yes.
Comedical? Are you making up
Comical,
words?
making stuff up. Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Can you turn the sound down?
Sound is down. Can you guys hear us? Hey, what's going on, sis? How you doing?
Minister Jermaine.
Jermaine in the house.
So we are not doing any kind of lessons or teaching tonight.
Actually, we are doing teaching.
Yes, we are teaching. Yeah, for sure. Yes. This is a lesson for me specifically tonight by request from Sharita Martinez. And I think it's super funny because oftentimes, I mentioned this last night, but I find myself being caught off guard with stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's for a reason and for a purpose because, you know, if you have time to think too much, I'm like, sometimes I'll go back and I'm like, man, that person said this to me. Like, man, I should have said this or I should have said that and, you know, did all these different things where I'm like, you know, if I had a lot of time, if I was quick on my feet, I might come out of my mouth in a way that, you know, I shouldn't or just, I don't know. Every time I have a situation happen, right? I tell Christian about it and he's like, oh, what you should have did was this or what you should have did was that. I'm like, man, I wish I would have thought of that. That's so good. I wish I would have did that. I wish I would have thought of that. So, hey, Lisa.
And so, one of the things that I learned from one of my, you know, you can call him a friend and you know, a mentor as well is at times when people say certain things, it's important for you to kind of like take a second to respond and be very quick on your feet. And usually what I like to do is say what you meant to say was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then that way they can think about what they said in terms of how you said it, which is usually a more polite, respectful manner, and then show them, you know, maybe they're
the right way to do it. Yeah. And that's me. Like, I don't want to ever come across to anybody in a way that's, you know, disrespectful because I don't want to be, you know, disrespected. I don't like being disrespected. So when I'm talking about having that time to, you know, think about it, like how can I help you? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Basically, how can I show you that what you did was wrong versus just walking away and letting you feel like that was okay to do that was okay to treat people like that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's where that really stems from me. I'm like, this is a good teaching moment. Like, that's not okay for you to treat people like that. It's
Absolutely.
Not okay for you to talk to people like that or to have, you know, bad customer service. Like, I'm going to take the time and I'm going to go and put in a customer service comment because guess what? Everybody else that you've treated like that didn't take the time to do that because they felt like, oh, okay, it's going to take up too much time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's going to take too much time for me to go and have to talk to a supervisor or write a complaint. So in turn, like, that person never gets better, never get any feedback, and the same thing continues to happen. So one thing that we
and so today is going to be really different. What we want to do is if you have a comment that you need help with that somebody has said to you, please post it in the comment. And what we will do is we have some comments that we're going to share with you guys. I'm going to tell you maybe what I would say or how I would respond in that situation. If you have a comment and you want help with it or you want to be able to engage better in the next, know, time that you encounter that situation, let us know, and we're gonna definitely try to encourage you to.
Yeah, we're gonna break it down.
Right,
we're gonna break it down because we want to help people. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to check people. We don't want to like do the same thing that we feel like people are doing to us. We want to help people, and that's where we're coming from. So, like I said, Christian is so good at this because I can't even count how many times he's helped me when I've shared, like, oh my God, this is what happened. He's like, oh, what you should have did was, I'm like, man, that's good. Because that only, you know, that helps that person recognize, hey, you know what, maybe that wasn't so nice, you know, to do that. And that person didn't, you know, respond back to me in anger or, you know, get mad at me. So my first one for Christian is Y'all listen up. And like Christian said, if you have some, put them in the comment. Because I just got a few.
Yeah, if it's a challenge or something, somebody has said something to you, a situation that you've encountered, whether it was a bad comment, like let's keep it PG-13. But if somebody said something to you and you just didn't know how to respond, or it caught you off guard, or maybe it was a disrespectful comment, put it in the comments and we can basically address them in how we would probably, or how I would address that situation. Right. To see if it helps and serves you. Right.
And maybe think about a time where you might have responded in a bad way, a negative way, or you felt like, man, I might have been too easy on this person and I wanted them to get some feedback. Some better feedback about how they did, because sometimes you may find yourself in a situation where somebody is disrespectful or taking advantage of you, and you want to feel like, okay, so how can I step this up a little bit to be a little bit more assertive? So my first one for Christian is when someone flicks you off, whether in a car, I don't care where you are, somebody flicks you off, they're mad at something that you did, and they turn around and they flick you off. What's a good way to respond to somebody that does that? Now I'm gonna give an example. I gave this example a few times, right? So I was, and I'm sure I've gotten flicked off plenty of times before, but the most recent one I'll share with you because I remember this. And the most recent one was when we were driving from Walmart or somewhere like that, and I was driving the speed limit. And this guy behind me was in a rush apparently, and so when he got the opportunity, when the lane opened up beside us, when he got the opportunity to go around me, he sped past me and flicked me off. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, it really like caught me off guard because I'm like, I'm driving the speed limit. I'm not driving slow or anything like that. And this dude flicked me off. So what do you do when somebody like flick you off?
So you got two instances, right? So people are driving in the car and they zoom by you. If you haven't done anything wrong. So here is normally how I kind of think about it. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm driving the speed limit. They're probably rushing to get somewhere. Right. The first thing that I look at is it a safe situation? So I remember that situation in particular, and I was worried because the road was cutting off. So as soon as they flicked, us off in the car, and I looked at Sharita, she was like, "Did you see that?" I was like, "You should have just gave him a thumbs up." Right. So if somebody flicks you off, I normally would be like, because that's gonna help have them think like, okay, what just happened?
Why are they smiling at me?
Why are they smiling? Why are they giving me a thumbs up? And then it's gonna help them think like, really, it wasn't that big of a deal
for
what
you to
just
be
happened.
Acting like that, right?
If you are in public, because you asked for two different instances, so in the car or in public. Right. If somebody flicks you off in public at the grocery store or whatever, I would probably do a different approach. Instead of giving them a thumbs up because they may think you're sticking your middle finger at them, I would probably go like, right back at you. Like, hey. Hey, good job, or whatever, and and make them think like they were giving you a compliment. That's normally how I like to make people feel. Like, thank you for the compliment. Like, you flicked me off. Hey, thank you for the compliment. Right. And then just let them kind of keep moving, because oftentimes people don't realize that the things that they're taking personal or they're getting really upset about is really minuscule, really petty, really small. Not to undermine what they're going through or what's going on, but that's usually how I see it. Right. You got to make sure that you don't take these things really like that personal.
Right. And I like that response because, like you said, you don't want to take it personal because somebody else's anger or frustration, I don't want to turn around and let it ruin my day because somebody decides to be in a rush to get to the gas station that's up the street. Because so many times, like, you see people rushing and they pull up in a Walmart or they pull up in a gas station. Like, you ain't even really have nowhere to be. Like, you weren't rushing your wife to the hospital to deliver a baby. Like, why are you rushing like that? And so I like that. Like, when this happened to me, Christian, when he said that, he's like, "Oh, you should have did this." I'm like, man, I wish I would have knew that. So that's often how I respond when he give me some feedback. Like, man, you should have did this, because it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about what you got going on, and I'm not going to let it ruin my day. I'm not going to let it affect my day, my attitude.
And I feel like sometimes, like, it never really happens to me. So me and my oldest son were driving down to South Dakota. I think it was South Dakota. And he had asked if he could drive for a little bit. So I was like, absolutely. It takes a little bit off of me. I don't have to do all the driving. And you can drive. So he was driving, and somebody flicked him off while he was driving, and he was doing the same thing. He was driving the speed limit. So as they drove by, it happened twice. Once it happened on a motorcycle, and when the guy like turned around, I saw what he was doing. He flicked us off, and I waved at him. I was like, "Hey!"
Oh, that's a good one.
And
too.
then and then he was like confused as to why I was waving at him.
At you.
Another time, it was a car like honked at us, waved, and kind of like was kind of like yelling, and I was like, "It's okay." Like I was telling them like it's okay, like whatever it is that they're upset about,
it's okay.
It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, it's you know,
and it's almost like
you're
instead of them transferring their like negative energy on you, like I'm gonna transfer some positive energy on you. Like, hey, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. So I really,
you're welcome.
Yep. That's a good one. See, I told you, he is super good at this. Because I need help. So the next one is when someone, this is my kind of opening for all of them, when someone makes a sideways or sarcastic comment to you, like you just like, okay, really? Is that what we're going to be doing? And I know what you're probably going to say to this one because you kind of say this one a lot. You opened up with it. What you meant to say was...
Yeah, so I typically would like to reframe it in the sense that I'm going to put a 10 on their head. So I'll say, what you meant to say was this. Or something was... so it depends. Like, say, for example, somebody makes a sarcastic comment to... I don't know if we have an example. So... you know,
why didn't you invite me over, to your house? You had everybody else, over to your house. Why didn't you invite me over to your house?
Oh, the invitation is in the mail. Didn't you get it? I mean, so if you try to be funny with me, I'm going to be funny with you, right? So why didn't you invite me to your house? Oh, I sent you the invitation. You didn't get it. It's in the mail. And then they're like, oh, was I supposed to check the mail? No, silly. Like, you don't ever invite me to your house, so so different things like that. So making sure that you understand that like it's not that big of a deal. So you didn't invite me to your house. So how did you know that I had people over to my house? What were you doing? Were you on my Instagram? Were you on my Facebook page? Okay, so let's go to that. Nice. So if you come on my Facebook page, if you come on my Instagram, and you're like, oh, I see that you got these people at your house, right? My thing is, one of the things that I would do is be like, hey, man, it's so awesome that you're fellowshipping. That's awesome. I would hope
then you might get an invite.
And then it'd be like, oh, cool. And so I think sometimes we take things the wrong way. For example, the only time that we have people over is, for us is like, maybe there's something going on with that couple. Like they're leaving, they're moving. Sometimes we invite people over because we have a common interest with our kids. We're sharing certain things with them.
A lot of different
and there's a lot of different reasons. But like we may not have that specific connection with you. So oftentimes what I like to do is reframe it. So, either I sent you an invitation in the mail, or the last time I invited you, you said no. So I felt like this time you didn't want to come.
Right.
Or every time I invite you, you don't want to come over. So I didn't think it was a big deal if I didn't invite you this time.
Right.
So just reframe it.
Yeah. And so one of the things that you said about kind of this whole situation was, hey, I try not to just take it personal, because sometimes when people say stuff or do stuff to us, we just automatically like take it personal. Like somebody that I don't know them at all, flicks me off. Like, why should I care about that? You don't know, like, you don't know me. You don't know me personally. You know nothing about me. So why should I care if you get mad at me because I was driving the speed limit, or even if I was driving too slow? Like, go around me. What's the big deal? And it's like, so having that kind of mindset and mentality, just thinking like, what's the big deal? Like, I'm gonna turn it around on you and just say, some of these type of things.
And it's almost like you gave an example about this the other day, and it's a false sense of like protection, right? It's almost like social media. People feel like they can say whatever they want on social media. They also feel like they can do certain things when they're in the protection of their car or behind a certain, like protection. Yeah. So I think about the example that you gave the other day about the two dogs, right? So, I laugh at that example because oftentimes that's how we act as adults, right? We try to be like, oh, I wish you would get up in my face, and then when people get up in your face, it's like, no, I didn't really mean it like that, you know.
Like, oh,
I was
brother,
just, it's all good,
bro.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. We
like,
don't have to be that serious, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's not that big of a deal. I didn't, you know, I'm not trying to start a fight, you know.
And like you said that too and I thought about it. I'm glad you brought that back up, because when you had said earlier about somebody flicking you off, say in a public place versus just in their car. Like, nobody's gonna flick you off in a public place on foot.
Yeah.
Most of the time, people gonna flick you off
where they can get away.
In their car. You know what I mean? Like, we in the store, nobody's gonna flick you off right here in your face. Typically, you know, they're not gonna do that. Not even across.
Can you show me that one more time in my face?
Not even across the store. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody gonna flick you off across the store. People gonna talk trash in their car when they can go ahead and speed off. Like, they're not gonna do that right there in your face. They know their limitations.
So I got a funny example. I'm glad you brought that up. So me and my best friend used to go to Kmart every Sunday.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we did is, like, after church, we would go to church together. And because his dad worked at this one place, what me and my best friend would do is we would go to Kmart. It was Kmart. We'd go eat, and it was funny because I would always get the same thing. I would get a double cheeseburger, a double bacon cheeseburger, with fries, and then he would get like the same thing, and we'd just sit there and just chit chat, and his dad would pick us up on the way home. Yeah. So one day we were in the store, and this one kid was messing with Jeffrey. He had always been like almost like a bully, right? Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is we saw him at Walmart. I mean at Kmart, and while we were there, the guy, like, he was like, "You want some?" and like trying to like punk my friend. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the opportunity to see if he's serious, right? Yeah. So as soon as he did it, I had like pretend to like slam my tray. I got up and he took off. Like, and I was like, see, people aren't serious about, you know, about what they people aren't serious. They're not serious.
And
right?
all you did was like, I had no plans,
and I was
no
coming.
Thing.
I was like, let me see how he responds. And so Jeffrey just started laughing. He was like, he wasn't even that serious.
Yes, it is. It's so funny. And that's like you said, that's a good example of, you know, even with social media. So let's put Lisa's comment up here so you can help Lisa. These are so for those of y'all that are just joining us, Christian and I are talking about how you should respond to people in different circumstances where people may disrespect you, where people may offend you, and different things like that. And he's helped me a lot. Christian is really good at this. He's helped me a lot in different situations where people have just kind of caught me off guard with, you know, negative things. Yeah. And I'm like, man, that was good. I should have said that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, oftentimes when that happens to us, you know, we may either respond in a negative way or just are caught off guard, kind of like me, and just kind of like, what do I do with that? Yeah. Or you may be too passive with it and you feel like, man, I want to stand up and I want to say this to this person, but I don't want to stoop to their level and be disrespectful, because guess what? I didn't like being disrespected, so I'm not going to disrespect you.
Good. So if you want to read the comment.
So Lisa says or asks, how do you handle someone who wants your support but don't want to support you because they don't agree with what you have to offer? But they want your support. Okay. But they don't agree with they're not going to support you and because they don't agree with what you have to offer.
So this is never about you. That's one of the things that I always kind of think about. This is not about me. Right. This is about where they are in their life. Right. So
or what they got going on.
Or what they got going on. Yep. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to reciprocate what I want to receive. Right. The law of reciprocity states that what you put out is what you will get. So if you feel like you want my support, I'll give you a perfect example of this. And I get Sharita will laugh at me all the time. My friend just posted about this the other day. So as soon as I start talking about it, Sharita will know exactly where I'm going. Uh-oh. So okay, if you want to be a friend of mine on Facebook,
I already know before you even.
And you don't like my page, you don't friend me, you don't like any of my posts, you don't comment on any of my posts, please do not become a friend of mine and then ask me to go like your page.
Go support my page.
Go support my page. You have to support in order to get support. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I try to do is anybody that I come into their sphere of influence, I try to support them in whatever way I can. Whether it's, you know, promoting them, whether it's, you know, liking their posts, whether it's commenting on their posts. Yep. You know, talking about, you know, things that resonate with me, because not everything that you do is going to resonate with everybody. Right. So there's always a part of your message that will. So one of the things that I try to encourage people to do is always support people with what you believe in. So like, say for example, I stand for certain things. So I stand for not like dogs, right? I don't want nobody to have animal cruelty, but I don't believe that, you know, people should be doing certain things. And then somebody says, well, do you condone, you know, this, like animals getting vaccines because they get hurt? I'm like, I said nothing about vaccines. I just don't condone animal cruelty, right? I believe I believe in supporting animals. I believe in supporting, you know, the people that mean to do well when it comes to breeding them and bringing them up and having like a really, you know, nice breed. But when it comes to different things, like I try to stay away from the things that I don't agree with. So somebody can come to me and say, well, you supported Sharita. Yes, I supported this part of what Sharita's message was because I believe in that. There's another part that I don't agree with, but that's because that's her opinion. I'm okay because that's her opinion. That's not my opinion. So for the most part, I think it's a personal thing. It's not about you. It's about them. Right. So I would continue to support them in the manner that you believe is in line with your beliefs, what you agree with. But I wouldn't get bent out of shape if they don't support me, because not everybody is to come in line in your journey. And so it's important that you support them where you believe in them, and hopefully they reciprocate it. It doesn't matter if they don't support one part of the journey. They should, and that's what I would have the conversation with them about. Like, if you have a close relationship with that person, hey, you know, I support all of these things, but I don't stand for this. So I agree with these part of the things that you talk about, but not this.
Yeah, and you should be specific about what you're agreeing with. And it's so easy, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking about this. It's so easy to get distracted. Like you're talking about, hey, I'm for, you know, I don't like animal cruelty. That's the specific thing. And then sometimes people try to take what you're saying out of context and bring all of these other things.
So you support this president?
Yeah, like, hey,
I just said I don't support animal cruelty.
This is it. This is what we're focusing on. Let's not get distracted with X, Y, and Z. This is what we're talking about. This is what I agree with, or this is what I don't agree with. Period. Do not skew my words. Do not try to add to it or take away from it. This is what I said, and this is what I meant. And one thing, Lisa, that I really I would encourage you to do, and I thought about it as Christian was talking and sharing with you, is that, you know, honestly, like when we support people, we're doing it for the right reasons. Like you said, we're doing it because we agree with what you're doing. Not everybody that, you know, I know or are on, you know, are friends with me on Facebook. Not everybody comes on our live. Not everybody likes our live. You know, it's a lot of people that watch it, but they don't take the time to like it.
They don't comment on it.
Nothing like that. And that, I mean, that doesn't matter. That's okay. But you also got to be, mindful that, guess what? They may not be going through
that specific
thing. They may not need that. So if me and Christian, if we're focusing on marriage and we got a bunch of friends or family members that aren't even married, you know what I mean? Like, they may not read a book that we write because they don't need it. Like, they're not gonna,
and that's a perfect example.
Like they're not gonna be into, you know, whatever it is that you're doing. Like, if I'm not into crocheting, I'm not gonna sit here and join a crochet book or a crochet club or, you know, group or anything like that. Like, so it oftentimes, like Christian, going back to what he said, oftentimes it has absolutely nothing to do with you. And then wait a minute, one more point that I really because I will forget once you start talking. One more point is that, you know, it's a difference between people not supporting you and then people, like, you know, dogging you negatively, you know, comment about, you know, even though they may not support you, they may not need it. But if somebody takes the time to go on to whatever platform you're on and then they talk bad about you, then it's time to start a block party. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to be friends with me on Facebook because that's not what friends do. And you don't need to be on Facebook. Like, you don't have to follow my page. You don't have to do all like, that's your own personal choice. Like, don't try to be friends with me on Facebook.
And, you know, one of the things that you brought up that I truly love is, you know, for me, one of the things that I've realized is that, you know, it's often not the messenger, it's the message, right? They're so caught up with the message that they're like, they don't understand how it influences their decisions and the things that they do. So I think about, you know, an instance where somebody may, you know, not like what what we're talking about, or think that they know what we're talking about. So for example, we're on live today. Me and Sharita are on here, and we've interacted with people that feel like anytime we're live that it's about marriage. So they don't want to engage with it because they feel like, well, I don't need it because I'm not married. Wow. I'll tell you what, you probably need it more than anybody else, because what we're talking about is how to build your relationship, how to get better at your relationship, how to build a dynamic relationship, and how to make it better. But it's not about being married. It's about what you can do to sustain that marriage and take it to a beautiful height. We also talk about leadership. We talk about real life stuff like this today. We talk about so many topics, but the problem is people get so zoned in on one thing that they don't ever get to understand what you're doing. So don't ever feel like it's about you. They may just may not understand your message. There's a big misconception with a lot of industries right now. Some of them are like a big misconception with CBD oils and all of these different things. So you can't get upset because people aren't educated or they don't know your message. So that's why it's important that you consistently lay out your message. You need to echo it out consistently so that people know, hey, you know what? Let me listen to, if they're having a bad day and they come on your live and you teach them, you educate them, and you talk to them about what you do and why you're passionate about doing it, people, that will resonate with people. But it also goes in line with where they are in their life at that moment, because they may not need that specific message. But then when the time comes that they need it, they'll go, the first thing that'll pop up in their mind is, oh, Lisa talked about that. Debbie talked about that. This
and I've done that before. Like, it's been like, if I'm not interested in, at the time in fitness, and but I turn around and, hey, you know what? It's time. I'm getting more focused on, my fitness, journey. My fitness journey. I'll find somebody that I like, and I'm going back and I'm looking at everything that they posted. You know what I mean? Because it interests me. If it doesn't interest people at the time, then they may not support it necessarily. You know what I mean? It's not that they're disagreeing with it. They may not support it. So my next one for you, Christian, is what do you do when someone criticizes something that you do? So you know what? That's kind of like what we're talking about now.
No, so this is actually really good.
Okay, so we're doing lives, right? And we're friends on Facebook, but you don't necessarily like, that's exactly what Lisa just talked about. You know what I mean? Like somebody doesn't support you. It's a difference between, like I just said, it's a difference between when somebody just doesn't support you. They may not need it, but somebody takes the time to go and criticizes, what you do, because it may not be their cup of tea. It may not be what they like. Okay.
So I'll share with you two things. The first one is when people don't support me or they criticize what I'm doing. Criticize specifically, right? What I usually like to do is flip the script. Show me how you would do it. I would love to see how you would do it.
And usually at that point, you're going to get crickets because they don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? I think a good example of that is...
and before you start, I like your lives, but what I would do is, okay, let's show me. You mean like right now? Yeah. Right now. Because people see things and they go, oh, I can do it better than them. Or, and they don't realize that the things that we do, the things that
people do,
it takes years of preparation and time and confidence and commitment and consistency
and failures,
right? A perfect example is one time, you were helping me set up for a live, and I was interviewing a dear friend of ours, Jazzy. And for 15 minutes, we couldn't get the audio right. We went live like 3 times. The audio couldn't get correct. So all kinds of stuff was going wrong.
You did not
and
give up.
You were literally walking out the door and you're like, give up, Chris. Like, we'll go another day.
Like, let's redo this. Let's reset. Let's reset. Reset. That's my word.
Because the topic the day before was like reset, right?
Oh, my goodness.
And then I think 2 topics before that was persistence. And then I think a topic after that was reset. And so it was so funny because finally we got it to work, and you were like, wow, that's persistence right there. I would have gave up on the second try or something like that. And you think about like all the struggles that you go through and the things that you go through, and people don't see that. All people see is the tip of the iceberg. All people see is when you come on the other side, right? So for me, when people criticize me, the first thing that I like to do is I like to put the ball in their court, flip the script. Show me how you would do it. Another time, you said you did have something that you wanted to say.
I did, because I like that, flip the script on them, because I feel like people give, like pastors a hard time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
oh, well, he should have did this. Or,
Mm-hmm.
oh, why is he doing that? Why is he doing? Okay, show me how we should do it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Imagine calling one of the members up on, the pulpit and say, okay, you preach this Sunday. How about you do it?
Yeah.
I guarantee you there'll be, like I said, a lot of crickets. There'll be a lot of people that just don't have nothing to say in response, to that. And it goes back to, again, we use the example of dinner. Okay, so have you invited me over?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the message today.
Yeah.
Flip the script on people. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna be our title. We're gonna change the title. Flip the script on them. Like,
and one of the things that I also like to do is, if they're not in an opportunity or in a position to flip the script, I always like to say one of the best equations that I've learned is opportunity plus preparation equals luck. You create your own luck, right? And so one of the things that I like to think about is whenever somebody criticizes something that I'm doing, I'm like, up until this point, this has worked. You have a better way. Do you mind teaching me how to do it? And then again, you get crickets, because you either, hey, show me how you would do it, or do you mind teaching me how I can do this better? Like, oh, you suck at doing this. Oh, do you mind teaching me?
Show me how to do it. Show me how to do it better.
Teach me how to do it better. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I didn't think you were going to respond like that.
That goes back to those two dogs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, show me how to do it.
Yeah. It's like, then when you flip the script like that, it's kind of like, I thought you were going to, tell me that I'm being petty, and then I was going to tell you, like, and so, like,
I wanted to start something.
What you're doing is disarming the people around you. Absolutely. And that's what you want to do. Every time you get into a situation like this, you want to de-arm the people that are around you, because negativity has no room when you do things like that.
Absolutely. So good stuff. Thank you, Christian. You're helping me. I'm learning a lot up here too, because there was a few that I hadn't. You hadn't taught me those yet. I mean, you saving the good stuff for the lives. Like, you hadn't taught me those yet. So my next one is, what do you do when someone walks across you without saying excuse me? Now, I'm going to use a funny example for this one. A few weeks ago, I came across these funny videos, and this guy titled the video Reaching Richard. So he was in the store, he was in Walmart, like reaching over people, going on the shelves and just reaching over people without saying excuse me or anything, but not to that extent. That was like super funny. And I tried to go back and look at that video too. I'm like, it's like content is unavailable right now. Yeah. But it was so funny. So, but just not necessarily to that extent, but people will we were literally in Walmart today. And we were looking at, like, you're in the aisle, like I'm here. And this lady just stops right beside me and just stands there. Like, she didn't want to say excuse me. Like, what's the harm in saying excuse me? Why don't people say excuse me? And I don't like it when people, they do just that
wait
as them.
Or stand right there and then.
Stand right there, or just say excuse you. Like, what? Did they just say that? I'm thinking, because sometimes I'm thinking, okay, I put a 10 on their head. They said excuse me. And then I'm like, no, wait a minute. That person said excuse you. Like, it's my fault. Why they talking about excuse you? I'm in your way? Like, you're trying to get around me. Yeah. What do you do in a situation like that?
All right, so it really depends. If it's me in that situation where the person doesn't say excuse me, I'll say, oh, excuse me, and then I'll stay right there. And then if they don't say anything, I'll just get, oh, excuse me. And then they'll get a hint. Mm-hmm. Like, once they say excuse me, then I'll move, right?
So that excuse me is not for me. Yeah. It's actually what you need to
what
say.
You should be
so
saying.
What you meant to say was?
Or sometimes I will say, I actually did this the other day. I was in the grocery store, and it was a day that you had said, hey, go ahead, take the car, blah, blah, blah. So I'm in the store, and the person is, like, trying to get by, and I'm actually, like, bent down trying to grab something. And they're, like, just standing there. And I pretended like I was on my phone, right? So I was like, the two most favorite words in my vocabulary are excuse me. Oh, what did you say? And then I got up, and then I looked over, and they're like, oh, you not on the phone? No, I'm not. Oh, excuse me. So, doing something like that.
Right.
sometimes what I'd like to do, and this is a more funny way to do it.
Yeah.
I'll kind of like, well, I'm sorry. I'm in your way. I apologize. Let me excuse myself. And then I'll kind of like, put it like that. In the situation,
You're being too nice in these situations. I'm telling you, like that.
One time, oh my
maybe
goodness.
asking a question like, "Am I in your way?"
Yeah. You could.
Yeah, you can. Ask them, "Am I in your way?" Excuse me.
My apologies.
Yeah.
I must be right here. So another thing. So this is really funny. So this lady was trying to stock a shelf, right? So she was a little bit shorter. She almost did the Reach and Richard kind of thing, right? So I was actually, it was trying to get some popcorn or something, and she was trying to reach up. So she kind of, it wasn't like reaching over a bit, but she was really close.
Mm-hmm.
And then she stopped, and then she went over, she got a ladder, she came back, and I'm like, is she not gonna say excuse me?
No.
And so because she wasn't gonna say excuse me, I was like, hey, if you want, you can step up on my leg and then just get up there.
Oh my God.
And she was like, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. And I was like, that's all you had to say?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, she was literally trying to
see, that's what I told
climb
you.
over me. Like, I'm like, seriously?
Yeah, that's a
like,
funny one.
You
need a boost?
Yeah, you need a boost.
You need me? Look, let me put my hand. You need me to help you?
Out? Let me help you. Now,
all right. So my last one is it's simple, but I feel like it's something that happens often.
Yeah.
And we'll wrap it up. Is if nobody else has any other ones, what do you do when someone enters a room without speaking?
Oh wow, this is a good one. I truly enjoy this one. So it really depends. Am I in the room first, or are they in the room?
You're in the room first. They enter
I'm in the
a
room
without speaking. Like, you're already in the room, and they enter the room without speaking to you. They know you.
They know me. They enter the room.
And they don't speak to you. Or they walk by you, you know what I mean, and don't speak to you. You already
They make eye contact and they don't speak.
They don't speak.
Okay, so first of all, most of the time, what I try to do is I try to provide a salutation first. So, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Did you say that yesterday?
Yeah.
Speak first.
So I try to speak first.
Okay.
Try to speak first. Good afternoon. If I see that that it's almost like an awkward situation, I'm like, hey, how can I help you? So then I try to get their attention. Mm-hmm. And I try to, make it known that I've seen them, I've made eye contact with them, and they forgot to say something.
Yeah.
So, hey, how can I help you? And at other times, it really depends on that situation. For me, one of the things that I always like to do is always like to greet first, right? Yeah. So even if I see somebody, speak first. Even if I see somebody and I feel like they've made eye contact, I tell people this all the time. Like, I am that one person that you don't want to ask me how you doing and walk away, because I will chase you down. Oh. I'm like, how you doing? Hey, so I'm doing great, and because my biggest thing is, if you ask, don't say it if you don't mean it. So if you ask me how am I doing, wait for a few seconds, because I'm really not going to talk your mouth off if I hear
that you're in a rush.
That you're in a rush. Yeah. How you doing? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I hope you have a wonderful day, my friend. Right. And then I let them go. But if you sound like, hey, how are you doing?
Or you want to talk,
or you want to talk.
They sound like they want to.
I'm doing great. Yeah. How are you doing? And then we have a conversation. You go from there. But sometimes it's really in their voice that I can tell, like, somebody maybe has an issue, right? So, you come in the room and you walked in the room. So, okay, let's pause. I'm going to take a sidebar real quick.
Yeah, do it.
So common sense is not common, right? So let's try this again. So if you are in the room and somebody walks in, I was raised that the person that walks in the room speaks.
Yeah, to everybody.
Good morning. Yep. How are you doing?
How
Good afternoon.
Doing? Yep.
Hey, how you doing, sir? I mean, even if it's just a how are you doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And it's funny because in Japan, one of the things that they would do is they taught you how to actually say certain things so that you knew that it was like a gesture of greeting, right? So like, when you said good morning, it was Ohayo gozaimasu. If you were saying hi, it was Ohayo. If you said, good afternoon, you would still say Ohayo, but it was like different salutations. So the one that would always get me was at night when you would say good night. So in Japan, they don't really say good night like how we say good evening. They usually kind of like have a salutation to say good evening, but a lot of people don't use it. They just tell you I'll see you later.
Right.
So in our tradition, you do say good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and those are the things that you should do. But if you feel like that's too formal or you weren't raised like that, how are you doing? Hey, excuse me, and even if you say, excuse me, do you mind helping me? Like, that's still, acknowledgement, go from there. So I think speaking first is the way that I would do it.
Yeah.
It really depends on what the situation is. Oftentimes, one of the things that is really misunderstood is like, well, if you see me and I see you, whoever feels like greets. No, that's not. No,
right.
not.
I like your answers. I'm not gonna use all of those. I'm just gonna be honest because some stuff it's just like it doesn't fit my personality necessarily.
Right.
Listen, and that's what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like you're going to you're gonna listen to stuff, you're gonna read stuff, you're gonna learn stuff, and you're gonna just apply what's best for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna take what you need
Absolutely.
and keep it moving.
Yes.
So for me, when someone enters a room without speaking, if it's someone that whether they like me or not, you know what I mean? Like I've gotten to a point where like if I speak to you a couple times and then you still you decide not to speak, like then I'm gonna respect your your space. I'm not gonna keep trying to wear
don't
you down.
make it seem like I was being rude.
Don't make it. Yep, I gave you a few times. I gave you a few opportunities to speak. You know what I mean? Like kind of like a neighbor. You know, like if you got a neighbor, like you constantly like, hey, and they don't ever say anything. They don't ever speak. Like we gonna come out the door and I'm gonna go right to my car or go to my mailbox or wherever I need to go, and that's it. So. For me, that speaking first really spoke to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's people that that may feel like, hey, I'm not sure if I should speak to them. I'm not sure if they like me like that. I'm not sure if they remember me. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people think that like, okay, do they remember me? Yeah. They seen me, but we don't really talk like that. So, just saying, and that's what I would typically do. Like, hey, how you doing? And just to be, really friendly. But if you got an issue where you're just kind of like, I'm not sure if we're on good terms or not like that. Like, hey, yesterday ended at midnight. Yeah. I'm over that. I'm not gonna keep, I'm gonna let you know. Guess what? We have a new day, a new opportunity to reset because that's what I did. So I'm not holding, any grudges. But again, I'm not gonna go out of my way to sit there and keep speaking to you or trying to be your friend or trying to do like that. Takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of effort, and sometimes like I can use my energy doing something else.
Yeah, and one of the things that's funny is like sometimes what you could also do is even if you knew that they came in the room, one of the things that I've done to make people like, really kind of like change the way that they approach it is, oh, hey, I didn't see you come in the room. And they're like,
I saw you.
Yeah, I saw you. Because then they think, okay, so what just happened, right? Well, you didn't greet. You didn't say hi. You didn't even acknowledge I was in the room.
It's just rude. Yeah.
And instead of calling people rude, there's a few kind of ways that you can kind of like indicate, hey, it's polite to say good afternoon. Right. Hey, good morning. Like,
so we're putting it out there today. Like it is. It's rude. It's not polite.
Yeah. You've been put on notice.
Let me see. It is polite to speak when you enter a room. If you're the one, there's people already there and you enter a room, you be the first to speak and say hi. And even if it's just a general, because I'm not going to go, every time if it's a big group, I'm not going to go speak to every, hey, how y'all doing? And if somebody come to you and they think, that you didn't speak, I spoke when I came in.
Yeah. I'm not going to walk into the room and say, hey, good afternoon, good afternoon,
right.
good afternoon,
no harm, no foul. And then for those people that, I was talking about that you do have, issues with, like I'm still there for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you need me. It doesn't mean like I'm being, negative Nancy. Oh, you won't speak to me. Don't talk. Guess what? It's gonna come a time. It's going to come a time where you might need me.
Yes.
And I'm gonna still be there for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and all that's gonna do is reap burning coals over your head. Because guess what? I was still nice to you anyway. Like, man, I've always treated so-and-so like disrespectful, or I did X, Y. I never spoke to them. But guess what? When I needed them, they were there for me. Yeah. That right there, that's a gut check. That's that's a character check. Like, absolutely. Man, I treated that person bad, and Scripture talks about that. That's what what we love our enemies, and and in turn, when we do that, we reap burning coals over their heads. So I ain't got time to be in a position where I feel guilty for doing doing the wrong thing. Like I want to have a clear conscience and keep it moving. And sometimes I mess up, and guess what? When I do, I ask for forgiveness and then keep it moving. Like,
Absolutely.
you're not gonna hold anything against me to where I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be quick to forgive.
Yeah.
That way, when I mess up, I'm quick to be forgiven.
Absolutely. So we got 2 things that we wanted to let you guys know. So 2 announcements. So we're going to be having a leadership corner where we're going to bring somebody on, do an interview with them, and just talk about leadership principles and different things. So you'll know what day that is, because we'll post that, we'll talk about it, and we'll hype that up. The other thing is we're going to have an area where we're going to start doing most of our lives, and that's where we're going to do a lot of the coaching, right? So we'll be doing coaching in that area, and then these are going to be practical lives, just talking about daily lessons, things that we're learning, so that you can see what we're going to be doing in the coaching group, so that you can go in there and, you know, get some of the coaching.
And it's more personable.
Yeah.
It's not like all my friends on Facebook that don't like, or don't necessarily, like we talked about, they don't necessarily need it. It's for people that, guess what, that are like-minded. You know, people like me. So we are going to be transitioning to a group soon. So just keep your eyes out on that.
And we'll talk about leadership. We'll talk about relationships. We'll talk about, you know, personal growth in your personal industry, and then business building. And youth empowerment. Absolutely. So as always, I am Coach Chris.
I am Sharita Martinez.
And we are your friends. We want you to
dominate your space. Peace out.